Support for Louisiana, the state we're in, is provided by...
Every day, I go to work for Entergy.
I know customers are counting on me.
So Entergy is investing millions of dollars
to keep the lights on
and installing new technology
to prevent outages before they happen.
Together,
we power life.
Additional support provided by the Fred B. and Ruth B. Ziegler Foundation and the Ziegler Art Museum located in Jennings City Hall. The museum focuses on emerging Louisiana artists and is an historical and cultural center for Southwest Louisiana. And the Foundation for Excellence in Louisiana Public Broadcasting, with support from viewers like you.
Crime, cleanliness, and new attractions.
Could a state-led plan restore faith in the French Quarter?
We're looking at ending large-scale blight and making those investments real, not just letting people sit on valuable land until they can make the most money out of it.
What's blighted property, and what's its status in Louisiana?
That's what a great cancer center does. It focuses on doing the best research its area needs.
Enhancing the work of researchers to reduce cancer in the state.
Given the last 2 years, I don't think anybody's complaining. We really did need a break.
Hot or cold? What weather patterns are we expecting for the end of this year?
The city of New Orleans welcomed French President Emmanuel Macron and his wife.
Yeah, they're going to be touring the French Quarter, discuss climate change with Louisiana's leaders, and also honor the deep connection between France and Louisiana. He'll meet with Lieutenant Governor Billy Nungesser. I'll have more with Nungesser on other matters in a moment.
But first, some other news making headlines across the state.
Senator Bill Cassidy this week co-led a Senate hearing pushing for better mental health services and treatment for high school and college students. Dr. Cassidy says 3 years of COVID have taken a toll, especially on 15 to 24-year-olds. Suicide is now the second leading cause of death of that age group. He says it's time to give extra care to teenagers, who are our future. A proposed bill would offer treatment help in all facets of mental and behavioral health. The Department of Justice, law enforcement agencies, prosecutors, and community workers banded together to create the East Baton Rouge Public Safety Partnership. It's an action plan to reduce gun violence throughout the parish. The partnership spreads far and wide and includes the efforts of all federal, state, and local law enforcement agencies in East Baton Rouge. It also includes the U.S. Attorney's and District Attorney's Office, Safe, Hopeful, Healthy Baton Rouge, and the Mayor President's Office. Next Wednesday, December 7th, an exhibition opens to honor the state's 4 Heisman Trophy winners at the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame and Northwest Louisiana History Museum in Natchitoches. You can find much more information on this event at louisianastatemuseum.org.
Okay, police arrested a 15-year-old for shooting and killing an 18-year-old in the French Quarter following the Bayou Classic football game this past weekend. Gunshots also injured 5 others. It's yet another example of the violent crime that has Lieutenant Governor Billy Nungesser upset and pushing for major changes to clean up the quarter.
Billy, it's good to see you. What is step one with this to, I think, save New Orleans?
Yeah, we had made a proposal, working with the mayor, to manage the French Quarter, 4 appointed by her, 4 by me, 1 by the state rep. The police chief would sit on that committee, and we would essentially have a partnership with this city to oversee the garbage, the cleanup, crime, all the things that need to be fixed in the quarter, and really put an interest. We offered $250,000 for friendly officers that the city would hire. They'd wear a vest that would say, "Louisiana, feed your soul," to help tourists find where they're going. And they would have a radio to report people doing things illegally or wrong in the quarter, to bring attention and call the police when needed. The plan included a camera in every street light, a bank of cameras in the police headquarters where somebody could watch what's going on throughout the quarter. So the criminals would know if they come down there, they're going to get caught and they're going to get prosecuted. And there's some businesses in the quarter that we need to take a look at. Are they attracting people that we want to attract to the quarter? We need to see some of these clubs that are attracting the wrong kind of people revamped, hopefully, and get a jazz club back open, and to get some things back open that would attract tourists.
So if the specific clubs are breeding the element of this, why can't you just shut them down?
Well, it's going to take the city enforcement and to really look at some of this, and whether there's dope going on or there's guns. And when you hear somebody runs out of this club, pulls out a gun and starts shooting people, it's time to look at that establishment and say, do we really need that element in the tourist attraction for the city? The repair and maintenance of the streets, we can't just patch these holes. People are falling. There's not a day goes by that we don't bandage somebody up in one of the museums that cross the street there.
Sure.
It's been that way for 20 years. So to really take an interest in the quarter and fixing it and making it the shining star it needs to be. We get more negative letters, emails, calls about the quarter than positive. We looked at the gas lamp district in San Diego when it was run down.
Yeah.
They took and managed it just like we're proposing. Whether it's a state park district, a historical preservation district, crime, cleanliness, and new attractions have been trending the wrong way for the last 8 years. If we don't turn it around soon, we will lose the quarter. We will lose the tourist attraction that makes people want to come here for conventions, conferences, and it will devastate the city. And I have committed, if we can get this managed separately, that we will clean it up, we will make it safe, and we need 100 police officers in the quarter, and whatever it takes to do that, to have a police officer in every corner, it's that important of an asset to this city and this state that it deserves that attention. I had a conference call with the Universe pageant, and I told them I would talk to the governor about having state police down to make sure those young ladies and their escorts are protected for that pageant. God forbid, during that pageant, we have an occurrence like happened this past weekend. That would be news all over the world that we don't need. The business community deserves support from the elected officials to clean up and make it safe. They're hanging on. They worked through COVID, and now we're dealing with this. I mean, let's face it, people don't want to go in the quarter. Local people don't want to go down there.
What's the timeline for this to take place?
We're hoping we can get the legislators to support some legislation to manage that quarter separately.
So that's got to be next in the legislative session?
Hopefully, yeah. We failed last year, to where we can see some state assets that would help make this happen.
You heard Nungesser mention the Universe people. He's talking about the Miss Universe pageant, which will be in New Orleans in January. Also talked with Kelly Schultz of New Orleans & Company. She emphasized safety for everyone in the Crescent City.
Yeah, well, New Orleans & Company, when we talk about visitor safety, of course we're concerned with visitor safety, but we're also concerned about all of us who live and work here. Right. All of us who come to work every day to promote and market and sell the city. All of our wonderful hospitality industry employees who are out and about working around the city, taking care of our guests. So we're a sales and marketing organization. We're not law enforcement, but we do want to make sure that when we talk about safety, it means for everyone, not only our visitors, but for those of us who live and work here. And that's why we have great partnerships with the New Orleans Police Department, with other city and federal partners to do everything we can to be a good corporate citizen and make sure that our city is as safe as it can be.
In March 2022, LendingTree found that Louisiana ranked 9th for the most vacant homes in the country. Sometimes when a home is left vacant for too long, it can deteriorate into blighted property. In New Orleans, there's an effort to clear out these areas and create healthier environments. Andreanecia Morris, president of Housing Louisiana, explains new solutions. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me, Kara.
So, blighted property, when people hear it, they think of just abandoned homes, tired things just being thrown in places they shouldn't be, but it's actually a legal term. What does it mean?
That's right. So I've got it right here. It's a legal term. Blighted property means those commercial or residential premises, including lots which have been declared vacant, uninhabitable, and hazardous by administrative hearing officers. So it's a designation. It's a legal designation. What's happened is blight becomes just a catch-all for rundown property, abandoned buildings, and things like that. But it's a legal definition, and it's a set of rules that people need to be more aware of to understand how it gets enforced and how it gets triggered, and really what the underlying problem that blight represents. How do we address that?
So in Louisiana, I mean, I just told you about that study from LendingTree, but how is Louisiana's relationship with blight?
It's complicated. One of the things that we have to talk about is that underlying issue is often really disinvestment. Blight is a symptom of a problem in a neighborhood or a community where there's not enough investment. People aren't able to keep their own home or keep up rental property or commercial property. It falls into disrepair, and it causes real problems for the people who live in that neighborhood. But there's a reason it's allowed to fall into disrepair, because people don't want to be in that neighborhood, either because of environmental issues, or there's been loss of jobs in that area, or who lives there. And so when the folks who are there, who are struggling with, all kinds of vermin and overgrown grass and bad things happening in blighted properties, they want someone to respond. And our elected officials and our policymakers have a set of rules to respond to. And what should be happening is those properties should be put back into commerce. And that often doesn't happen. It gets interrupted by things like our property rights. You don't want to take property. We often think about an older couple struggling, not losing their property, but often that well-intentioned desire to help our neighbors and our family members often is used by unscrupulous bad actors to hang on to property until they can sell it and make the most money with it.
Well, I mean, what you were describing earlier, whenever you're talking about the conditions and what it's like living there, I mean, how does that affect the quality of life for people that do?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we've seen all kinds of bad things happen when there's too much blighted property in a neighborhood. It brings down property values. It attracts bad individual actors. There are fires, vermin, all kinds of things happen to the people who have to live with it. So people absolutely have a right to be concerned. But we have to be careful, because what you want to do is not simply get rid of blight. You want to attract investment. Investment that will make your neighborhood stronger. You want to see things like community gardens and grocery stores and housing for your neighbors and your family members and your friends, so that your network can stay together and people can live and thrive. Instead, we kind of rush to just get rid of the blight and demo it, and that leads to other problems like people, they dump on vacant land, right? They very rarely dump on, you don't dump tires on a rundown, raggedy house. You dump tires on swaths of vacant lands where there was maybe dozens of homes that have been demolished because they were blighted, and now it becomes an easier dumping ground because you haven't addressed the underlying disinvestment.
So is there a correlation at all between crime and blight?
It's a correlation. It's not causal, but absolutely correlation. Like I said, blight's a symptom. So in an area where there's going to be high crime, you're also likely to find higher rates of blight. But again, you want to make sure that there's opportunity, there's investment. When we look at who's committing crimes in our communities, it's young people without a lot of options, without a lot of opportunities. You've got to interrupt that cycle of poverty, and that is best interrupted with creating homes that people can afford and live in, that will nurture them, homes that are healthy and strong, and give people options and choices and a chance.
So let's talk solutions. You've talked a lot about investment. Is that the only solution to this problem? Are there other things that can help?
It's the best solution to the problem, because it means that the neighborhood, the community is stronger, and it can self-perpetuate and bring additional resources to bear, not just relying on government resources. The government should be as a regulator, as an organizer, almost, instead of the primary investor. So we want to make sure that there are resources there, and that it's a healthy community. So it's not a food desert. The housing is affordable. You've got jobs and grocery stores and restaurants and things like that. And so that kind of investment, that's what everybody wants when they picture their neighborhoods and their community, not raggedy buildings. And so we also want to make sure that the rules prioritize, addressing particularly large-scale commercial blight, and not just focusing on senior citizens who are living check to check or struggling. That we're looking at ending large-scale blight and making those investments real, not just letting people sit on valuable land until they can make the most money out of it.
All right, well, we are out of time. Thank you so much for talking with us. So the gist is just investments, resources that can help with the blight problem.
That's right. You got it.
All right. Thank you so much. That was only part of my conversation with Andreanecia Morris on Wednesday. We'll air the second part on SWI next week. So be sure to tune in as we discuss the complexities of short-term rentals and a worsening housing crisis.
Cancer is the second leading cause of death in Louisiana, and nationally for all types of cancer, we have the 5th highest mortality rate. It's tough. Dr. Joe Ramos hit the ground running when he came on board as the new CEO and director of the Louisiana Cancer Research Center, and he joins us now. You're just back from a statewide tour of looking at all the facilities, the research people, and what did you come away with finding?
So for a little background, I came here for the very reasons you just said. The problem here is among the worst in the country for cancer. And the Louisiana Cancer Research Center is a partnership, essentially, of LSU, of Tulane, of Oxnard, and of Xavier universities. And so for me, that was a great strength, and one of the reasons that I came is that we have these universities and institutions pulling together to tackle this huge problem. But I didn't want to get confined just to what we're doing in New Orleans. I needed to see what we have going on across the state. And so I went across the state to Moreau, to Shreveport, to Lafayette, to Baton Rouge, really trying to understand what we have on the ground there. What are our communities doing to address the issues of cancer in their communities?
And you came away with good thoughts.
Yeah, it's been, it was remarkable to see so many amazing folks committing their lives to the problem of cancer in their communities. And again, this is going to be central to what I do as the director at the Cancer Center. We really need to focus on doing work for our communities, with our communities, that can have direct impact in those communities to make sure that we're solving the problems of Louisiana. And that's what a great cancer center does. It focuses on doing the best research its area needs, and that's what I'm very focused on.
Well, it hits close to home for everybody in Louisiana, and I think that's one of the reasons why with the numbers that we have a designation of Cancer Alley in part of the state. I mean, these are things that you don't want to have.
Yes, no, and it's a complex problem, as you might imagine. There are issues here that have to do with genetics, but there are also issues of policy, of inequities, or health access for some of our underrepresented populations. Just getting to the doctor can be hard for some people.
Yeah, and that brings up the point of what Louisiana offers now, what we can offer and need to offer, and with a designation that's very important also.
Yeah, so you often hear about people talking about the NCI designation, and I've been doing NCI designation work now for over 10 years, and my mom doesn't know what it is.
Okay.
So the simple idea is that NCI designation is a grant that you get from the National Cancer Institute.
Right.
And it really goes to places that are doing all the work they need to do to have that high impact, that high quality cancer research, but specifically in service of the people that they serve. And so for us, that will be Louisiana.
Yeah.
And so
people here can reach, if they're sick, they can go to a trial perhaps in state, not have to travel to it, but there might be some they would travel to also.
That's right. So we need to do more. So we have areas of need, and that's what I'm really focusing on. We have to grow our clinical research specifically for this reason, to make sure that we have the right trials here in the state for the people of Louisiana, so that they don't have to leave the state to get the latest cancer care and cancer treatments. But also to make sure that we know what's going on. So we have to work on our population sciences, our epidemiology, so that we know better how cancer is affecting the state.
When you work on something like getting that designation and the research grants, how many years does something like that take? Or does it come in years?
So I came because we have so many fantastic researchers here. We have that core set. And so there are specific areas we need to focus on. But knowing that we actually already have in place a number of great researchers and research being done for Louisiana is one of the reasons I came, so that we can focus on those areas that we need to grow and enhance. And so that'll probably take us 5 to 7 years. I'm wary of giving any specific number because we're ready when we're ready for the designation. But the important thing is, as we're working towards that, we'll be doing all of those things you need to do to make our cancer center do what it has to do to lift the burden off the shoulders of the people of Louisiana for cancer, so that we are constantly working on everything we need to make sure that we reduce that burden.
Well, so for right now, though, in the immediate, for people dealing with this, how can they find out if there are trials going on that are close to home?
Yeah, our partners have many trials going on here in Louisiana, and you can go to our website, louisianacancerresearch.org, to find some of those trials. But you can also go to clinicaltrials.gov, which is the national resource for clinical trials, and search by community or by cancer types.
Dr. Ramos, thank you so much. I appreciate it. You have been a busy man since you arrived from Hawaii to Louisiana, and are making that transition and getting to know what the state is doing.
It's been great. The people here are incredible. So
thank you for being here. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Parts of the South received severe weather this week. As of Wednesday morning, dozens of tornadoes touched down in Alabama, Mississippi, and Louisiana. Heavy wind, flooding, and hail as large as tennis balls were all part of a winter storm headed north. But is this unusual weather for this time of year? Here to talk with us about this is Barry Keim, Louisiana State climatologist. Thank you so much for joining us.
It's great to be here. Thanks.
So first, let's talk about the severe weather on Tuesday and Wednesday morning. What was happening?
Well, it was a very strong cold front actually pushed through, and given how warm the sea surface temperatures are out in the Gulf of Mexico, and this air coming out of Canada is pretty cold right now and dry, and when you have these two air masses mixing up, some action can happen, and that's exactly what played out over this past week across that particular region.
So in Louisiana specifically, did we have a lot of tornado activity?
I believe there was only one reported tornado, possibly a second. It may have been the same tornado being reported twice. But most of the action actually was in, just to the east of Louisiana into Mississippi, and it spilled over into Alabama. So we had this big swath. But there were other types of damage in Louisiana in terms of high wind and hail. So we were right in the mix with all the severe weather that played out. Now, more typically, we think of tornadoes occurring in the spring, and we do have a peak in the spring here in Louisiana, but we also have a secondary peak in November. So it's not uncommon for us to get tornadic activity here in the state at this time of year.
Wow, okay, so like a second bout of severe weather in November. Why November specifically?
My suspicion is, the fronts can be pretty cold at this time of year coming out of Canada, and the sea surface temperatures are still relatively warm. So that mix, that combination of the lack of energy coming out of Canada, mixing up with this very moist air coming off the Gulf of Mexico, it just creates a very unstable, unsettled environment that can pop off some really severe weather sometimes.
Okay, so sometimes though, it's not something that we should be expecting every single year.
We do get severe weather almost every year, and sometimes you get the big tornado outbreaks. Other times you might just pop off one or two tornadoes. This was actually a pretty severe outbreak here, and we were just unlucky that this go round. But it's not uncommon to be having these kinds of weather activities at this time of year.
So is it safe to say that, going forward into December, we won't see this type of weather, or are we still in that
I would say it's still possible, but maybe in terms of Louisiana, somewhat less likely as we look at the climatology. We tend to get more tornadic activity in November than we do in December and deeper into the winter. And then it picks up again once we get into the spring. But we can get tornadoes in any month, and we always have to be on our guard and watch for severe weather watches and warnings.
So here in Louisiana, our big thing is really hurricanes. Not a lot of people have basements or places underground to hide out. How do you stay safe during a tornado event?
The best thing to do, especially if you don't, obviously a basement is the safest place to go. I assume some places up in North Louisiana may have basements. Here in South Louisiana, they're very uncommon. Our water table is too high that, would basically be, would have water in them most of the time. So they would be non-functional. But if you're in a house without a basement and there is, imminent tornado activity about to take place, the best thing to do is get into a small interior room, like a bathroom where you have a lot of pipes and things like that can add extra support for the walls. But being in an interior room also, or a hallway, is much safer than being on a exterior wall somewhere that's more likely to be damaged. And you can take cover. If you see a tornado bearing down on you, you could pull in a mattress and kind of cover yourself, because you never know what might happen. In a very severe set of circumstances.
So the gist is, make sure that you're basically barricaded somewhere small, no windows, and just, tightly packed in there.
All of that is correct. Yeah, like I said, an interior hallway and interior bathroom are probably the safest locations, but a small bedroom, if it's in the interior of the house, is definitely a smarter place to be than an exterior room.
All right, so we've gone over the severe weather that happened on Tuesday and Wednesday. Is there anything else, that you've noticed this year that you thought was interesting with weather patterns?
Well, obviously this tropical season was very interesting. The hurricane season is closing. It was an interesting year relative to the last couple. Yes. Better for us in a big way. It ended up, the forecasts going into this season were for an above normal year. And we ended up with 14. We were exactly average. And now that's assuming we don't get any more in December. Any December hurricanes, will be attributed to this season. So we still could get a late season hurricane. We'll have to wait and see. But as of right now, the season is officially over. And we end with 14 named storms, and that is considered an average season. So, and thank goodness, none of those really affected the Gulf in any major way, with the exception of Ian, which was a big deal for Florida. That was the signature storm this year. Well, I'm sure will be a retired name this season. But given the weather patterns and the way it played out, Louisiana was relatively protected.
And everyone, that's our show for this week. Remember, you can watch anything LPB anytime, wherever you are, with our LPB PBS app.
You can catch LPB News and public affairs shows, as well as other Louisiana programs you've come to enjoy over the years. And please like us on Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram.
For everyone at Louisiana Public Broadcasting, I'm Andre Moreau.
And I'm Kara St. Cyr.
Until next time, that's the state we're in.
I know customers are counting on me
So Entergy is investing millions of dollars
to keep the lights on.
and installing new technology.
to prevent outages before they happen.
Together.
We power life.
Additional support provided by the Fred B. and Ruth B. Ziegler Foundation and the Ziegler Art Museum located in Jennings City Hall. The museum focuses on emerging Louisiana artists and is an historical and cultural center for Southwest Louisiana. And the Foundation for Excellence in Louisiana Public Broadcasting, with support from viewers like you.